I told you about an attack at a major substation in April 2013. Expert marksmen using AK-47s take out 17 transformers that provide power to Silicon Valley. In a Senate hearing, PG&E promises to put $100 million into protecting substations and the one in San Jose. Fast forward to August 2014, the perimeter fence of the same substation is penetrated, construction equipment stolen, and again, no one arrested. Our power grid continues to be vulnerable. Even when companies know their facilities are a target, they still can't get it right. With me now, Center for Security Policy President Frank Gaffney. Frank, before we get to that, I want to talk to you about the beheading of the British humanitarian aid worker. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sorry to say, Janine, I think this will be just one of many of these kinds of, well, evidence of what is driving these jihadists, namely Sharia. Pursuant to Sharia, beheading is a perfectly legitimate means of demonstrating your dominance of your enemies and liquidating them, with terrifying effect, obviously, on the rest of the population. And I think that the ISIS guys, like others in Al-Qaeda, like Boko Haram, like the Taliban, and so on, have in fact demonstrated their commitment to this doctrine of Sharia and are seeking to impose it worldwide. This will be one of the instruments by which they try to do that.
And you know, we had Ambassador Dennis Ross on, and he said they generally do these beheadings when they're kind of perceived as being in a lower, the perception is not as strong as they feel they should be, and so they do this to kind of reinforce their strength. You agree with that?
Look, I think the truth of the matter is that beheadings take place all the time. They're going through this process of beheading Westerners, I think, for the purpose of really demonstrating their determination to challenge us, and I think to bring death and destruction to us. Whether it serves their purposes to deflect attention from some tactical reverse or for whatever other reason, I don't know. But I will say this. I think you better expect more of the same, because they believe it's working. They believe they are, in fact, achieving what God tells them they will, which is this triumph of Islam, Sharia, over others. And that's why I say I think there's more to come.
Well, you know, Frank, and so let's segue to, you know, what we originally intended to talk about, which is the grid. Now, as you and I both know, I mean, San Jose, all this hoopla, you know, it's never going to happen again. A bunch of, at this point, seems like punks break through the perimeter and steal some construction equipment. What is happening? Is our grid protected?
Sadly, I think what you see in this episode, both the what I call Metcalf 1.0 and 2.0, is that this substation, the Metcalf substation, like a great many others that make up this incredibly important critical infrastructure of this country, is not adequately protected. And again, there's an insight at the micro level, this particular plant, this, the facility, and at the macro level. The macro level in many ways is even more troubling, Judge. You have the evidence that has come to light since that first attack is that within 3 days of it taking place, a group called the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, which is responsible for setting the standards for security, physical and otherwise, took down the physical security standard that they had been working on, not to fix it, not to make it stronger, but to eliminate it. And until February of this year, whatever, almost 10 months later, there was no such standard. When the Wall Street Journal broke the story of this attack being, in fact, an attack, not just an act of vandalism, they scrambled to put something together. They left out 6 critical regional control facilities.
Why would they do that, Frank?
The federal authorities say, don't do it.
The viewers
I can't
are saying,
tell you
why.
Why
have an
on
idea.
earth are they doing it is well, it's perhaps you can answer it, but just to make this final point, if I may, what they did was prompt the Foundation for Resilient Societies, a terrific watchdog group, to say there are 100 million people who are perhaps going to lose power because those regional facilities are left out. And here's the rub. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission said that, you know, to the NERC, you actually need to include those. The NERC said, No. This is evidence, I'm afraid, of a system that is broken, so that we not only have these vulnerabilities, but they're not being addressed.
I want to get this in. A couple of months ago, Frank attackers gained access to an Arizona substation, and they placed a makeshift bomb next to a 50,000-gallon diesel tank. Again, nobody arrested. And I'm going to add one more. Al-Qaeda took out the grid in Yemen. So it's not like our enemies don't know how to do this. Your thoughts?
No. They certainly know. I think our government knows about the vulnerability of our grid. The only people, despite your best efforts, and for that I'm deeply grateful, Judge, the American people are still largely in the dark about these vulnerabilities. And our concern is that if the process whereby these efforts are actually made in a real way that materially improves the resiliency of the grid, there's a real risk that the American people are going to be put in the dark permanently if enemies take advantage of these vulnerabilities.
And you and I both know the consequences. Frank Gaffney, thank you so much for being with us again.
My pleasure. Thank you,
All right,
Judge.
and coming up, a New Jersey teen gunned